Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. So in today's tutorial we're going to continue with our series on creating a simple CRUD API and deploying it to the web using FastAPI, MongoDB. We're also going to be using Docker containers. We're going to be deploying it to Heroku, and also going to be laying a bit of CI/CD using GitHub Actions. So in this tutorial we're going to continue with what you have done last time. So in the last time we have been able to write the user registration, and we have been able to send registration emails to those to their respective users. So in this tutorial, I'm going to continue to allow users to log in since they've been able to register. So if I go back to the database and I click on browse, I'm going to see a list of all the users that have already registered for application. So viewing this list, you can see that the users have registered. So now the users should be able to log in. So this tutorial, we're going to go ahead and create the login part of the program. So this is all the code for all the users. So now we're going to go ahead and create the login part. So let's get ahead and do that. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do, we're going to go ahead into my VS Code. So make sure you can feel free to use any editor that you're comfortable with. I'm going to be using VS Code for this. So this is the this is my env file. Let me just move let me just close this env file. Right now I hid my password because we're going to use this in a second. So let me just close this up for now. Let me just go into my routes, and inside of my routes I'm going to go ahead and create a template, and this template is going to be called out. Okay, so I'm going to create another file here, and I'm going to call this file simply out.py. And in out.py, that's going to keep the login, the ability for the user to be able to log in. So we need to, for the users to be able to log in, we need to import a couple of things. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is actually we need to get the user's information, like the username and the password, and then we check if the user exists in our database, and if the password of the user is correct. If both conditions are true, then you'll be able to log in that specific user. Okay, so I'm just simply going to go ahead and import a couple of things. So I'm going to say from FastAPI, I'm going to go ahead and import a couple of things. So these are those are comments, so remember. So I'm going to say from FastAPI, I'm going to go ahead and import the following. So I'm going to have API router, just like we have been doing so far. API router, just like this. So once I have API router imported, I'm also going to import a couple of things. So it depends. You're going to use all of this just in a second. You're going to also import status, so you can return HTTP status. You're also going to import the HTTP exception. So once I have those things imported, I'm going to go ahead and simply write the basic functionality. So I'm going to go here and simply say router, and router is going to be called API router. And once I have this API router, I can simply go ahead and pass in the following. So I'm going to say the prefix. So in the last row we didn't go ahead and actually say the prefix, so we can also use the prefix if you want, and this is just going to be /login. So that's going to be our prefix. And I'm just go down here, I'm going to say simply go ahead and say tags. So the tags are going to be the different tags for this. Okay, so I'm going to say tags, and the tag is going to be a list, and I'm simply going to simply say authentication. So you can just say authentication. You can use basically anything you want, but I'm just going to keep it simple and leave it as authentication. So once I have all those done, I'm simply going to go ahead and create a simple route. Yes, I'm going to say at router. This is going to be router dot. It's going to be a post request, so post, and this we're going to leave this be blank, and then you're simply going to go ahead and simply say the following. So at router post, and then you're going to specify the the response model. You can specify the response model, the status code and stuff, but let's go ahead and specify the status code in case the user is the user was able to log in. We can simply return to the user a simple status code, and to do that you have imported status right here. So we're going to status, and you can just say .http, and then you can go ahead and look at the status. I'm just going to return a 200 to show everything was okay. So once I have that done, I'm simply going to go ahead and create a simple asynchronous function here. So I'm going to say the async, and it's going to be def, and I'm going to call this function login. So login, you're going to go ahead and take in the user credentials. So user credentials, just like this. So we're going to take in the user credentials, and using the user credentials you'll be able to allow the user into access into the system. So this user credential is going to have a type, right? So which type is this going to be? So we're going to import something from the FastAPI basically uses OAuth tool scheme to allow authentication and stuff like that. So you can even go to the official website and read more about the OAuth tool scheme and stuff like that. So if you go here and search for let me just say JSON, let me just say out, so you can just look at here and look at the basic HTTP exception or the basic authentication, and you can read more about it. But something I can tell you that FastAPI relies on the OAuth tool scheme for logging in, so we need to use that. Okay, so you can just read about it, and what about the OAuth tool scheme, what's all about. You can even just go and search OAuth tool I think is this one right here. You can just do this, so you can read more about it and all that stuff. All that information is right here on the official website. So I'm simply going to go ahead and actually use this inside of our application. So I'm just going ahead and just going to go ahead and copy this right here. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this line right here, copy it and simply move it into my VS Code. I'm simply going to go ahead and paste it here, but I only need the password request form. Okay, this is going to allow us to get the username and the password of that specific user. So this is what you down here when you set the user credentials, is going to be of type OAuth2 scheme. Okay, so OAuth2 password request form. So it's going to be OAuth2 password request form, and that's basically what we need. So once we have all of that done, all the user information is going to be stored inside of this user credentials variable. So what do we do with that information? And this is you're going to say equals to, we need to say equals to depends, and then depends, and then you're not going to pass in anything. Okay, but you need to specify depends on what. Okay, so depends just basically like allows FastAPI to do some process in the background, and you can read all about this on the official documentation. So but this two, I'm just going to keep things simple and just go straight forward to the point. So once we have this done, you're going to get the user's name and the user's password. So let's go and search if that user exists. So I'm going to say user is going to be DB, right? So DB, and then you're going to await this process. So I'll say await, we can await this. So await, and you're going to say DB. So we need to import DB, right? So I'm going to go ahead and import DB, and DB is going to be from you're going to import it from I think it's from Schema. Sorry. So I'm going to say from .schemas import DB, just like that. So once we have that, you're going to say DB, and then you're going to get the users collection. So users, and then users, you're simply going to say users.find _1, and then you're going to say the following. So you're going to say the name of that user is going to be equals to the user credentials dot username. So user credential dot username, just like that. So it's going to return, it's going to have a username and also a password. So you're just basically finding the username and not the password information. Okay, so I just been saying user credentials dot username, and that's going to return to us the user specific name. Okay, so this user credential also contains the user's the user's password that the user is going to pass in. Okay, so once we have the user, we have the user. Now we have the user. If in case we get the user, right, so we're going to say if user. So under what condition do we allow the user to log in? If the user exists in our database and the password is correct. So I'm going to say end utils dot utils. We can say utils dot verify. So verify utils dot verify. So utils dot verify, and we need to import utils, right? So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to import it from import utils, just like that. So I'm going to say utils dot verify underscore, I think verify underscore password, right? So we need to pass into a couple of things. We need to pass in the password that the user passes in, which is going to be stored in the user underscore credentials, and the actual and the password of the user in the database. So we're going to say user underscore, and then you're going to get the password of that specific user, because it's going to be a dictionary, right? So we're going to get the password of that user. Okay, so once we have this done, if the user, you're going to check if the password is correct, means that the password the user provided. So we're going to say dot password. So my bad, I would say dot password, and then we're going to compare this password the user provided with the hash password of the user within the database, if the user exists. And if the user exists and the password is also verified, then you're going to simply go ahead and simply log in user. So why do you need to log in the user? We need to generate a bunch of access tokens that we can use to get access to the get access to the information of that user, right? To store the information of that user, and then return the access token back to the front end, and then using that information the user can be able to get the access token. Okay, this which is going to be a bearer token. So how do we generate access tokens in FastAPI? So you can go here and just go ahead and search for Jwt tokens. So you're going to be using the Jwt tokens. So Jwt stands for Json Web Tokens, and you're going to be using Json Web Tokens to verify the user. You're simply going to store the user ID instead of the Json Web Token. So if you know what Json Web Token is, you can go to the official documentation of FastAPI and read more about Json Web Tokens. So Json Web Tokens, or Jwt tokens as they are called, is just text information, and there's encodes the information using a string into a long format similar to this one right here. So once we have that done, I'm simply going to go ahead and I think we have installed all the libraries that we need. So let's go and see how we can use the information. I think we have not installed this one right here, right? So let's go ahead and actually install this. This is for encryption of the password. I think we have this already installed, and we have this also installed already. So let's go ahead and see what we need to do. So or we can just simply, let me just, I don't know if you've installed this, but you can just simply copy this again and just paste it, make sure that we have that installed. So I'm going to go into my terminal and make sure that I stop my development server and then paste this in there and make sure the virtual environment is activated. Okay, so once we have that installed, we also need to run this command. Okay, I'm running them in backward, but let's just run them. I think we already did have this installed, but let's see how it goes. Okay, so I think the requirements are already satisfied. So let's wait for that, and let's also try to put in the second one, and let's try to execute this as well, and let's see if that is also already installed. So it's collecting some things, and it should install everything. So once we have that done, I think these are two different libraries, right? So there's this first one, and then there is this other one that we have. So this is for hashing password, and this is for generating Jwt tokens. Okay, so make sure that you have those two libraries installed on your virtual machine. So once we have those two libraries installed, this is how you can generate a simple Jwt token. So we need a couple of the secrets. So we need to have the secret key, the algorithm that is going to be used to hash the password, and we're also going to have the access token, how long it takes before the access token can expire, right? So we need all these three information. So we can simply go ahead. So we need these basic three informations to have this setup. So I'm simply going to copy this and go into my my .env file, and instead of my .env file, I'm simply going to go ahead and paste that information in there. So I'm going to simply go in here and then env file, and then simply paste that information right here. So I'm going to change this. I don't want to be my secret key to match the one on the official documentation. That would be crazy. And so yeah, I'm going to change that official token, this token right here. I'm going to generate my own token and use it. I don't want it to match the one of the official documentation. Again, one thing I remember, you can just simply go ahead and remove all the strings points. We don't actually need them, so just get rid of all the strings. So don't put them in double quotes, it will still just work fine. So you can just get rid of all those double quotes. Even here I can delete this as well. So I'm also going to go here and just delete all of this, just get rid of all these quotes. I don't really need them, so get rid of this and also get rid of this. So once I have this inform, I'm going to generate my own token hex, right? So token here. So I'm going to go inside of my terminal. So instead of my terminal, I'm just going to go here and simply type in Python 3 and then press enter. So it's going to bring for me the Python interpreter, and I'm going to go ahead and import secrets. So I'm going to import secrets, and I'm going to do secrets token underscore hex, and I'm going to pass in 20 here. You can pass in a number you want. So it's going to generate for us a random token that you can use. So I'm going to copy this token right here and just exit out of this. Okay, so once I have this done, I'm just going to clear the terminal and simply copy that token and use it here instead of this. So I'm going to delete this and simply paste that token here. So you can generate tokens, or that's how it is easy to generate a random token, and you can generate random token of your choice, of your choosing rather. So once I have that, I'm going to close my env file. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to official documentation. So once I have this key set up in my my environment, I'm just going to go ahead and I need a couple of things. So I need to go ahead and I'm going to create another file. So I'm going to go in here instead of my VS Code, and I'm going to create another file outside of the routes folder. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this for now, and we'll come back to this just in a second. And in here, I'm going to go ahead and create another file, and this file you can just call it I'm going to call it OAuth2.py, because we are going to be using the OAuth2 scheme for authentication. So once I have this done, I need to import a couple of things to use the OAuth2 scheme in FastAPI. So I'm going to go ahead and import from JOS, right? So the JOS what is used to create the to generate the the Json Web Token, or the Jwt Tokens, and this is a library that we installed right here. So I'm going to go ahead and import it. So I'm going to say import, and I'm going to say from JOS import, I'm going to say Jwt error. So I'm going to import Jwt error, and I'm also going to import Jwt. So Jwt is what we're going to be using to generate our tokens, okay, our token information. So once I have that, I'm also need to go ahead and the first thing you need to do is to create the token. So I'm going to go down and say def, this is going to be create underscore access, underscore token. So it's going to be the access token, and we're going to simply taking a payload, and the payload you can say payload, and the payload is going to be of type a dictionary. So we're going to pass in a dictionary, and this dictionary is going to consist of the key of the ID of the user, and you're going to hash that ID into a JWT token. So whenever we get back the token, we can decode it to get the ID of the user and use that to query our database. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and simply generate the JWT token using the ID of that user. That's why passing in the payload. That's what the payload is going to contain. So we're going to say to encode, and this is going to be the following. So it's going to be payload dot copy. You're going to make a copy of that payload just in case we need to do anything with that official payload. And I'm going to simply generate the expiration underscore time, and the expiration time is the time that will take for the token to expire. In this case, it's going to be 30 minutes as we specified in our env file. Okay, so I'm going to say date time. So I'm going to go ahead and import from date time. I'm going to import from date time. I'm simply going to go ahead and import date time. So I'm going to in delta time. I'm going to import two things from date time. So from the date time, right, I'm going to go ahead and import date and time. I'm also going to go ahead and import time delta. I think it's called time delta, just like that. So I'm going to go here and simply say date time dot UTC now is going to return to us the current UTC time, and then you're simply going to generate UTC now, and then you're going to say plus, and this is going to be time delta, which is going to simply add some minutes to it. So we're going to add some minutes to it, and minutes, and you're going to add some minutes to it. Means that the current time plus 30 minutes, right? So if you generate a token right now, we're going to add to it 30 minutes. Okay, so means after 30 minutes it's going to expire, right? That's why we're going to add to it a 30 minutes a time. So we're going to get this from our env file right here. So let me just open up my env file. I want to get the access token minutes, this value right here into my Jwt scheme.py file. So we need to import a couple of things. Let's just import a couple of things. So when we say from .env, I'm going to go ahead and import the following. So I'm going to import load env. So once I have that imported, I'm going to go down here and simply say load underscore env, load.env. I'm simply going to run that. Okay, that's going to load all our env for us, and I'm simply going to go down here and simply paste what I've copied, and this is going to be equals to the following. So it's going to be int of os dot let me just import os as well. So I'm going to go ahead and import os. So it's going to be os dot get env, right, get env, and which env value is this one right here, which you get from the env file. So we're going to get this env, convert it into an integer, and then store it inside of the minutes right here, access token expire minutes. So we're going to pass in the minutes as the access token expire minutes. So means that's 30 minutes, right? So if you check in here, it's actually 30, so it's going to expire after 30 minutes, right? So let me just go back here. So once we have that done, I'm simply going to go ahead now to generate the token that I want. So I'm simply going to go ahead and say to underscore encode, and this is the data that we're going to encode, and this is going to be the following. So it's going to be to encode.update rather. You're going to update this value, and you're going to update with the expiration time. So we're going to say the expiration time, and the expiration time is going to be of time expiration time, which you just have right here. So copy this and simply go ahead and paste it here. Yeah, that's all we need. So once I have that done, I'm simply going to go ahead and now generate the JWT token, right? So we have the expiration time and the token itself, which is going to be the ID of that user. So we're going to simply say JW underscore JW token, and this is going to be equals to JWT dot encode, right? So we're going to encode the following. We're going to pass in the following. You're going to pass into encode underscore encode, right, which is what you want to encode, and then you're also going to pass in the key, and the key is going to be our secret key of our app. So we need to go actually import secret key. So if you check in our env file again, we have the secret key right here. So I'm going to copy that and simply go in here and simply say put it above this. So I'm going to say secret key is going to be equals to we can say so this could be equals to we can say os.get env, and I'm simply going to pass in the secret key right here. So I'm just going to copy that secret key and simply paste it right here. So that's how the key is going to be our secret key, and the algorithm is going to be the algorithm that you're going to be using. And if you look at the env file again, you specify the algorithm as the HS256, and that's the algorithm that you're going to be using to generate a token. So we're just going to go in here and import that as well. So I'm going to paste it here, and it's going to be os.get env, and this is going to be the following. So we're just going to paste that there as well, and simply copy that and simply paste it here as well. So that's going to go ahead and generate for us our token, and we can simply go ahead and return the JW underscore token. Okay, Yeah, so that's going to generate a token and simply return to us the token of that information, the information token that we need. So once we have this, we also need to be able to verify our token, right? So let's actually go ahead, back to our routes file here. Instead of our route, I want to go into the out part. So instead of my route, I want to go into the out. So routes, and then I'm looking for this right here. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to import the OAuth2 from here. So I'm going to say from OAuth, from .OAuth2. I'm going to import a couple of things. So I'm going to import create access token. So once you have create access token, we can use it to create the token that we want, and then to verify the token and stuff like that. So once we check that the username and the password are correct, you can simply go ahead and generate the access token. So it's going to be access underscore token, and this access token, we can just simply say create access token. So create access token, and we need to pass in the payload. So the payload is going to be of type dictionary, and the dictionary is going to have the key, the ID. So you're going to have the ID, and the ID is going to be of type the user ID, right? So it's going to be user and then underscore user, and then you're going to get the ID of that user. And remember, the ID stands with an underscore because you're using MongoDB, right? Okay, so once we have that, the ID is going to be generated, and then you're going to use that information to generate the access token, and this is going to return to us the access token from here, right? You're going to return to us the access token, and you're going to store the access token inside of this. So I'm going to go ahead and simply return the access token. So we say return, and then you're going to return the following. So we're going to say going to return a dictionary, and the dictionary is going to have the following. So we're going to say access underscore token, and the access token is going to be of type access token, which you just generated, right? So access token, and then you're going to also pass the token type. So the token underscore type, and the token type is going to be of type bearer. So I'm going to say bearer, just like that. So the token type is going to be of type bearer. So let me just keep this to be lowercase b. So token type is going to be of type bearer. So that's basically what you're going to return. So in case the username doesn't match the password, or the user doesn't exist, we're simply going to go ahead and say else. We're just going to return raise a HTTP exception. So we're going to say raise the HTTP exception. So HTTP exception, and this you're going to simply say status underscore code, and the status code is going to be status.http, and this is going to be a 403 for forbidden. So I'm going to look for 403 right here, and then I'm also going to go ahead and specify the detail why maybe the user was not found or something. So let's say invalid user credentials, just like that. So that's basically what you're going to do. So if the user exists, you're going to simply generate a token and simply return that token to the end user. Else, if the token if the user doesn't exist, we'll raise this exception right here. So once we have this login done, the login which is going to return to the user a token, let's go ahead and try to also go ahead and try this out. So let's just save this. So I'm going to go into my terminal. So instead of my terminal, I'm just going to go ahead and run this. So I'm just going to say uvcon, and then we say api.main and then app -- reload, just like that. So we're going to start our development server running on localhost at port 8000. Yeah guys, and you can see that I got an error here. It says that my password is invalid to connect to my emailing stuff, right? So I showed you later on that I hid my password, right, because I didn't want you guys to have access to it. So I hid my password right here and typed in this instead of password, right? So this has to be equal, and then equal, and then your password, right? So my password goes in here, so I have to type in my password for that to work. So I'm just going to pause the video. I'm not going to show you guys this part, so later on you guys can also change your password, and then you can continue from there. So I'm just going to go ahead and change my password. Okay, so I've already changed my password, and let's go ahead to see how if this still works. So I'm going to simply stop my development server, clear the terminal, and simply run this code again, and now this should be able to start, hopefully. Yeah, so it started on localhost at port 8000. So if I go back to my FastAPI right here, I click on this. So once I'm in here, I'm just going to go ahead and simply hit refresh this to refresh this page, and once it's loaded, we're supposed to see that, but I don't see it here. So we need to go ahead and actually add it to it, right? So I'm going to go into and look for my main.py file, and instead of here, I'm going to go ahead and import this. Okay, so I'm going to import this. I'm also going to import out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and simply copy this and paste it down here. I'm going to say out.router. So once I have this now, it should be able to reflect. So let's check if the server is running. So we have an error here. It says cannot import API router from FastAPI. So let me just go ahead and actually go back into my out here, and then let's say from FastAPI import API router. So API router is this one right here. Don't know why it's giving me an error here, so I'm just going to paste it here again. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this as well. So I just need to import it only once. Yeah, I think that's all. From FastAPI, we're going to import the API router. That's basically it. So let's check if it's still having any error. So we still have the error right here. It's online. Let's say from FastAPI import API router. So let's go ahead and actually check if you go into the users part. Yeah, let's check if we imported this correctly. Yeah, this is how we import it. So I'm just going to copy this right here and simply go back in here into my out and simply paste it right here again. So paste that. Yeah, that's basically it. So API router. Okay, I didn't type this properly. I said I typed this actually backwards, so sorry for that. I said AIP instead of API, so sorry for that typo. So now let's check this. It says that create access token is we have to import dict from I also forgot to do that, so I'm going to go in here and just say from typing. I'm also going to import dict. So from I'm going to say from typing I'm going to import dict, just like that. So yeah, we have that imported, and hopefully I hope I didn't make any errors. Now everything seems to work, so I'm just going to go in here and simply refresh this page. Let's see. So we have the login part. I can just click on login and then just click on try it out. So once I have tried it out, as you can see, ask me for my username and my password. So let's just say test user. Test user. I think I use the test user. Let me just check in my MongoDB. Yeah, I have test user 1, so I'm just going to copy that right here, copy it, and I'm simply going to go in here and just simply delete all of this and paste that in there. My password, I believe is secret or update secret, or I think it's secret. Yeah, so I'm just going to execute this and let's see what we get. So this return to us an access token, so an information contained. So we have an error right here, and let's see what the error is. It says that raise operation failed, message value, so Mongo failed bad authentication. So I think my authentication failed. I think I changed the password later in my MongoDB. So let me just go ahead and actually change my password again in here, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I'm not going to show my env, but I'm just going ahead and change my password because I changed the password and I forgot I didn't change it here. So once I have maintained it to my env file and actually put my MongoDB password there, let's go ahead and actually try this out one more time. So I'm in here and my password is a secret, so I'm just going to click on execute and let's see what we get. So I'm just going to execute this, and I can see invalid user credentials. So I think this is underscore code, so I'm going to say underscore code. So secret underscore code is my password, so I'm going to execute this one more time, and you can still get back the access token right here. So you get back the access token, which is the Jwt token that you have generated. Yeah, so this is basically how you can create a simple authentication system in FastAPI and use that to authenticate your users and stuff like that. And you can when you're creating a front end, you can use these Jwt tokens to send along with your request so that you can get access to the API. So that's how you can create a simple Jwt token. Okay, so my error was just I forgot to actually change my password inside of my env. I forgot that, so sorry for that, my bad. So once we have this generated, I'm also going to add more functionality to verify the token and get the currently user that you're going to use in other coming tutorials. So let me just go ahead and actually do that here in here. So I'm going to go write a simple code. So the first code we're going to write is actually we are going to have a code to get the access to the currently logged in user. So the first thing we're going to do is first of all verify the token that the user sends, right? So if a user makes a request to our front end with the token, we need to actually verify that token. Okay, so to do that is actually very easy. So I'm going to simply say okay, I'm going to simply say def here, and this is called verify underscore access underscore token. So this is going to be used to verify the access token. So we're going to take the token, and this token is going to be of type the following. So it's going to be of type str, and then it's going to we're going to have the credential. So we're going to also have we can raise the exception. So this exception is going to be passed in by another function, and that I'm going to just show you just in a little bit. So credential exception just like this. So we're going to have these two right here. We're going to give these two arguments. So the first one is the token, right? So we're going to try to do the following. You're going to try to decode the token. So we're going to simply say payload, right? So payload, and the payload is going to be the following. So we're going to say jwt.decode, right? We're going to try to decode the token that the user is going to be passed in. So whatever token gets passed in, you're going to try to decode it. You're going to simply pass in the algorithm. So this is going to be secret. I think it's called the secret secrets. I think it's called secrets. actually it's called key, so secret key, so it's going to be key, and the key is going to be our secret key, right? So it's going to be our secret key that we have. So I can just simply refer to this, and the algorithm is going to say algorithm, and our algorithm is going to be the one that is instead of our env file, so algorithm. So I'm going to get this algorithm right here, and this is the algorithm and the key and the secret key that we're talking about. So the algorithm and the secret key that we have. So that's all we need. So we're going to pass in the token. So it's actually supposed to be token and not token. Not token. So token, and then you also have the secret key and then the algorithm that we have. So this is going to be used to decode that that information. So this you can actually even use a list if you want. So you can also put this instead of a list, and that's you can also work with that. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and now get the key from the decoded information, which is the ID, right? So I'm going to get the ID, and this ID is going to be of type string, and this is going to be equals to payload I'm going to simply say get, and I'm going to simply try to get the ID. So once we have the ID of that that secret token that is stored inside of the secret token, because to encode to generate the token, we are going to encode the ID, right? So we're going to get the ID back from that token that we encoded. So we're going to go ahead and say if not ID, right? So I'm going to check if not ID, and I'm also going to raise an exception. So if the ID doesn't exist, we're going to raise credential exception, just like that. Yeah, so that's basically it. And then if that ID exists, we're going to simply say token underscore data, right? Token data, and you're going to simply pass in the ID as a token. So I'm going to say token data. So if you look at the official documentation, let me just bring you back to official documentation of FastAPI. So if I go back to I think it's this one, right? Yeah, right here. So you can see that once the token is verified, they're storing the token inside of this token right here. So I'm going to token object, which is just a schema. So let's go ahead and actually create this schema right here. So I'm going to go into my schemas, right? So into my schemas file right here, and instead of my schema file, I'm going to go ahead and create a token schema. So I'm going to say I'm going to create a class, and it's going to be token data, just like this, and it's going to inherit from the base model. Okay, base model. Base underscore model, just like this. So once we have this, I'm going to simply say ID, and the ID is going to be of type string. Yeah, that's all we need. So I'm just going to import this and use it inside of my OAuth 2 scheme right here. So I'm going to say from schemas, I'm going to import the schema that we just created. So from schema schemas, I'm going to import the token data, just like that. Actually this will be only from one dot. From dot import the token data, and then from you're going to say token data token data right here, and we're going to say ID, and the ID is going to be equals to the ID that we just got from here, right? So yeah, once we have that, then ID is a keyword in in Python, so you can just use another variable if you want, but I'm just going to keep it ID to keep things simple. So just like that, and we have a try block here. So in case any error occurs, we're going to do an exception. In case we fail to decode the token or get anything, you're going to accept that an exception. It's going to be a JWT error. No, it's actually a JWT. I think we have it right here. Yeah, I think it's called JWT error. Okay, so let me just go here and import JWT error instead. So it's going to be JWT error. So JWT error, that's what I want. So I'm going to simply copy this, and that's what I want to use right here. So JWT error. So it's going to accept that error, and if that error occurs, we're simply going to go ahead and simply raise credential exception. So I'm going to raise that credential exception in case the JWT error occurs. And now that you have this token data generated right here, which is the ID of the user, we're simply going to go ahead and return token underscore data back to the caller of this function, right? If you get the ID, it's going to simply return, pass it inside of the schema, and then simply return that information back to the caller of this function. Also, you're simply going to raise a credential exception. If the ID does not exist, you're also going to raise a credential exception. Yeah, that's basically it. So now we're going to create another function, which is going to be the last function. So we're going to say def, and this is going to be called, we're going to say get underscore current underscore user. So get current user, and this is going to be the following. So get current user is going to take in a token, right? And the token is going to be of type str, and then you're going to have depends, and depends on the following. So we say depends, and then you're going to import depends from FastAPI. So let me just go in and import it here. So we say from fast API, I'm going to import depends, just like that. And I'm also going to import a couple of things. I also need to import from security, from FastAPI.security. We're going to import the OAuth2 security thing. So I'm going to say from FastAPI.API.security import the it's called OAuth2. This is going to be the password bearer. So password OAuth2 password bearer. So I'm going to get that imported. So great. So I'm going to go down here, and this is going to be depending on the following. So it's going to be depending on the OAuth2 password bearer. Okay, great. So to look for this password bearer, we need to create an OAuth2 scheme, and this will create that just in a little bit. So for now, we're going to try to get access to the currently logged in user. So in here, we need to create an OAuth2 scheme, and this is not supposed to be in here. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to simply go ahead and create the OAuth2 scheme here. So this OAuth2 scheme is a point that is going to go to whenever a user tries to log in. So it's going to go to /login. So when we say OAuth, this is going to be OAuth2. Just like this, OAuth2 dot underscore schema. So it's going to say scheme, and this is going to be OAuth2 scheme, and then OAuth2 password bearer, and then in here we're going to go ahead and pass in our token URL. So our token URL is going to be called login. So login, just like that. So we're going to call our token URL login, and all the detail for all of this is on the official documentation of FastAPI. So I'm going to copy this and simply use it in here. So we're going to depend on that on that point right here. Okay. So once I have that information there, I can simply go ahead and try to get the currently logged in user. Okay. So we have the token, and also the token depends on, sorry, this is not right. So this is going to be depends on this right here. Okay, so on this depends on this right here. And so once we have that done, I'm simply going to go ahead and get the currently logged in. So we say current underscore user underscore ID, and the current user ID is going to be the following. So we're going to say verify access token. So we're going to call the verify access token. So it takes in the token. So we're going to pass in the token that we receive, and you're also going to pass in the token, and you're going to pass in the credential exception. So let's go ahead and actually create that credential exception right here. So I'm going to go in and say credential, just copy it here, credential, copy this and simply paste it here. I don't want to make any typos. Okay, so I have credential exception, and it's going to be of type HTTP exception. So it's going to be of a HTTP exception. So we can import HTTP exception from FastAPI. So let me just go up here and then say from FastAPI import from, this is going to be from FastAPI. So I'm going to go here and say this is from FastAPI. Sometimes Visual Studio Code fills in those things, so be careful. Okay, so from this you're going to simply pass in the following. So it's exception. So in this HTTP exception, what you're simply going to do, you're going to pass in the status code. So I'm going to say status underscore code. The status code is going to be status, right? Status dot HTTP, and then you can just generate the status code. So we can just say HTTP underscore 401, because if the user doesn't get found, and then you can say unauthorized or unauthorized. So unauthorized, just like that. And then we can go down here and simply say we also need to import status from FastAPI. So I'm going to go here and simply import again status, just like this. Yeah, so once I have that imported, I'm also going to go down here and just simply say I'm going to say the following. So down here I'm going to say the detail. So the detail is going to be the following. So the detail is just going to be could not verify token or something. Okay, or say token could not be verified, token could not be verified, just like that. And then you're going to return the header for this. So I'm going to also put in a comma here and then say header, and then headers, right? So headers, yeah, headers, and headers is going to be a dictionary. So we're going to pass in www this is going to be authenticate. Okay, authenticate, and this is going to be a string. So let me just close off those double quotes, and then this is going to be a bearer. So let's say bearer. So bearer, just like that. So yeah, that's basically what we need for that to work. So this is going to be a string, so let me just put that inside of quotes. Okay, so www hyphen authenticate, this will be hyphen, not an underscore, authenticate, and this is going to be of type bearer, just like that. So I'm just going to close off that quotes. Yeah, that's all we need for the credential exception. So I'm going to simply copy this and simply return it here, pass it in there. So once we have that done, that's basically what we need, and then you're simply going to go ahead and credential exception, credential exception. So once we get this user, I want to get the user's ID, so .id. Okay, so because if you call this function, it's going to return to us this, which contains the ID field, which we define inside of our schema. So we're going to get the access to that ID of that specific user, because we defined the token data as just containing the ID, right? So we're getting the access to that ID information, which is this right here. So once we get access to that ID information, we can use it for other stuff. So we're going to use that ID to filter the database to get our currently logged in user. So I'm going to go in here. So once I have access to the user's ID, I'm simply going to go ahead and say current underscore user is going to be equals to db, and then you're going to await this process, right? So await. So if you're going to await this process, then this function needs to be an asynchronous function. So I'm going to say async await, and then you're going to say db, and db you're going to get the users dot find underscore one. Yeah, you're going to just find one, and then you're going to pass in a dictionary. You're going to say ID, and then the ID that matches the ID, the current logged in user. So the current user ID. So this is going to be an underscore ID, right? Because first MongoDB uses underscore ID. So we need to import also the DB from there. So I'm going to also import DB as well. Yeah, from our schema. So we have the DB and getting the users dot find one, where the ID matches the ID of the currently of the that has been provided by from decoding the token. So once we have the currently logged in user, we can just simply return that currently logged in user. So currently your current user. So we're going to just simply return the current user, which is just the currently logged in user. So that's basically it. So if you call this function current logged in user, we're going to use it in our future videos whenever you're trying to check if someone is authenticated before allowing them maybe to create a post or delete a post. You're going to be using this function right here, which is called get current user, which is going to simply call the verify access token and pass in the token and the credentials in case there's any error. So if there's no any so if you call this right here, we're going to pass in the token and the credential exception. So it's going to bring in here, and then we're going to use the token to try to decode that token and get the ID of that user, and then simply passing it inside of our token data and simply return it to us. In case there's any error, it's going to raise the credential exception that we passed in here. So once we get the token data information, we can simply get this ID down here, and using that ID we can fill the database to get the ID of that currently of that user who sent that token. And once you have the ID of the user who sent that token, we can simply go ahead and use that information to filter the database and then simply return the currently logged in user who provided that token. So that's basically it, and yeah, that's basically it how you can create a simple login system. So let me just check if the server is running. So everything seems to work fine. So let's try everything out. Yeah, so let's try to log in again, and let's see if it's going to work. So I'm just going to press on login, and let's see how it's going to work. So this returned to us another access token right here, which is different from the first one. If I change this and just misplace my password a bit, we should get the password invalid user credentials, right? So great. So everything works as expected, and that's how you can build a simple login system using FastAPI authentication and stuff like that. So that's basically it for this tutorial. If you guys enjoyed this tutorial so far, like the video, share this content with anyone who you think might find this helpful, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more videos like this. And in the next video, we're going to go ahead and actually do with the password reset, whereby the user can request for a password reset. We send the user an email, and the email contains of a token, and you're going to use all of that information to verify the user and then generate password, allow the user to be able to reset their password in case they forgot their password. So that's what we're going to do in the next tutorial. So thanks for watching. Again, don't forget to like, to share, to subscribe the channel, and hit the notification bell so that whenever I upload new videos, you guys will be the first person to get notified. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.